My spoiled sister is demanding I give up my company and make her the boss because my parents said she could. Growing up, it was always clear that my sister, Jessica, was the favorite. She was the baby of the family, the one everyone doted on. And she learned early on that if she threw a big enough tantrum, she'd get her way. Our parents enabled her every whim, and while I, as the eldest, was expected to be responsible, mature, and self-reliant, Jessica got to coast through life with everything handed to her on a silver platter. It's something I accepted over the years, even if it stung. I worked hard, stayed out of trouble, and built something of my own. But Jessica, she drifted from one passion to the next, never really sticking to anything. And our parents bailed her out each time she messed up. I always figured that was just how things would be, until recently. A few years ago, I started my own business, a small tech company that I'd been dreaming of for years. It wasn't easy. Countless late nights, sacrificed weekends, and the constant fear of failure weighed heavily on me, but I did it. I poured everything I had into building that company from the ground up, and slowly, it began to grow. It was my pride and joy, a tangible result of all my hard work and determination. Jessica, on the other hand, had gone through a string of failed ventures. She'd tried fashion design, photography, even a brief stint as a yoga instructor, but nothing stuck. Every time she failed, our parents would swoop in, offering financial support or a place to stay until she figured out her next big idea. It was frustrating to watch, but I told myself it wasn't my problem. I was focused on my own life, on my own success. Then, last month, everything changed. I was at my parents' house for dinner when Jessica announced that she had a brilliant idea. She wanted to run a business, my business. I've been thinking, she said, twirling her fork between her fingers like she always did when she was about to say something ridiculous. I'd be an amazing CEO. I've got all these fresh ideas, and I just know I could take your company to the next level. I stared at her, unsure of whether to laugh or scream. You're joking, right? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Jessica looked offended, her lips pursing. No, I'm not joking. I'm serious. Mom and Dad said I should be the boss of your company. They think it's a great idea. I turned to my parents, half expecting them to laugh and say Jessica was being silly, but they didn't. Instead, my mother gave me that gentle, condescending smile she always used when she was about to say something I wouldn't like. Sweetheart, she began, we think it would be a wonderful opportunity for Jessica. You've worked so hard and the company's doing so well. Don't you think it's time to let your sister have a chance? My blood ran cold. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you kidding me? I asked, my voice shaking now. I built this company from nothing. I've worked for years to get where I am. And now you're saying I should just give it to Jessica? My father, who had been quietly nodding along, chimed in. Your sister has a lot of potential, and we believe she could learn a lot from this experience. She just needs the opportunity. I was stunned. How could they not see how absurd this was? Jessica had never stuck with anything in her life. She didn't know the first thing about running a business, let alone my tech company, but as always, my parents were blind to her faults, convinced that she just needed another chance. Absolutely not, I said firmly. I'm not handing over my company to Jessica. She has no experience, no qualifications, and no right to demand that I step aside. This is my life's work, and I'm not giving it up just because you all think she deserves another handout. Jessica's face turned red, and she slammed her fork down on the table. You're so selfish, she shouted. All you care about is your stupid company. Mom and Dad said I could be the boss, and you're just being a control freak. You never want to help me. I felt the familiar frustration boiling inside me. This was how it always went. Whenever Jessica didn't get her way, she turned on the waterworks or lashed out, and our parents rushed to her defense. But this time, I wasn't backing down. This isn't about being selfish, I said through gritted teeth. This is about what's fair. I've worked for this. You haven't. And just because Mom and Dad coddled you your whole life doesn't mean you're entitled to take what I've built. My mother looked upset now, her eyes darting between me and Jessica. Please, let's not fight, she said softly. We just want what's best for both of you. Can't you find a way to work together? I shook my head, incredulous. Work together? She wants me to step down and hand her the reins. There's no working together here. This isn't a game, Mom. This is my livelihood. Jessica glared at me, her arms crossed. You're so dramatic. I wouldn't ruin your precious company. I'd make it better. You've always been so uptight, never letting anyone else have a say. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. Jessica, you don't even understand what my company does. How could you possibly make it better? I don't need to know the details, she snapped. I just know I could do it. You're just scared because you know I'd be better at it than you. That was the final straw. I stood up from the table, my hands shaking with anger. "I'm not doing this," I said. "I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about something that isn't even up for discussion. My company is mine. If you want to run a business, go start your own, but don't expect me to hand over everything I've worked for just because you threw a tantrum and mom and dad gave in. I'm done." I left the house that night, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't believe my own family was asking this of me, demanding it even. It wasn't just about the company anymore. It was about the fact that they had never really respected what I had built, never truly seen me as an individual with my own accomplishments. To them, I was just the responsible one, the one who was supposed to make sacrifices for Jessica because she was the favorite. Over the next few days, Jessica kept texting me, alternately berating me and trying to guilt me into changing my mind. My parents called too, trying to mediate, saying they just wanted us to come to an agreement. But there was no agreement to be had. I wasn't giving up my company, and I wasn't giving in to Jessica's demands. It hurt deeply. I'd always hoped that one day my family would see me for who I was, that they'd acknowledge my hard work and success. But now I realized that wasn't going to happen. To them, Jessica would always come first, and I would always be the one expected to bend, to accommodate, to sacrifice. I had to make a choice. I could either continue being the dutiful older sibling, constantly making concessions for my spoiled sister, or I could stand up for myself and what I had worked so hard to achieve. I chose the latter. I chose me. In the end, Jessica and my parents were furious. They accused me of being selfish, of putting my career above family, but I knew the truth. I wasn't the one being selfish. I had every right to protect what was mine, and I wasn't going to let them make me feel guilty for that. It's been a few months now, and things are still tense between us. Jessica hasn't spoken to me since, and my parents are disappointed. But I've found peace in knowing that I stood my ground. I didn't let them take away what I had worked so hard to build, and for once in my life, I chose myself over their expectations. It hurts to be at odds with my family, but I've learned that sometimes standing up for yourself means disappointing the people who always expected you to put them first, and that's okay.